My name is Christopher Tilly, and today we're going to look at easy default switches for adults trying to reduce their obesity. It's going to be an interactive experience, and I hope you look forward to learning. On the right is a picture of me, kind of looking a little goofy here. On the left over here is my list of the degrees that I'm currently working on. I'm currently working on a Master's of Science in Applied Nutrition at the University of New England. I expect to graduate with the degree in August of next year. I began my education at Brigham Young University, Idaho, where I majored in animal science and I focused on animal nutrition. At Idaho State University, I worked through the necessary human-focused courses to get into my Master's of Applied Nutrition program. Okay, I currently maintain a personal trainer's license from the American Council on Exercise, and I own my own training business. I began my personal training career at Gold's Gym, where I worked with clients to establish and achieve their personal goals. On the left here is a picture of my little wall of martial arts stuff, a couple of my certificates for black belts, and just a cool looking wall. I have been training for over 23 years and I have not ever gotten bored. I absolutely love it. I love animals is actually what got me started in animal science, where I learned their needs, like humans, are unique to the individual. After working as a researcher, I transitioned into veterinary work, and as working with as a vet tech that I really got into animal nutrition and physical rehabilitation. This is when I decided to make the jump into the world of humans, and what's led me to working here with you today. Okay, so the goals of the workshop are over here on the left, but before you go through that, I want to take you through what a SMART goal is. As the picture shows, SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. By the end of the seminar, you will be able to do these three goals. This means that you are clear about what you want and how you're going to get it, and make sure it's within a reasonable amount of time and gives you what you want. For example, the goals of the workshop, you can see we want to know what your current defaults are. In order to accomplish this, we're going to define and measure 3 healthy defaults that are realistically achievable, and finally make the changes permanent to review and discuss these important defaults with your children and families. So, the question is now, how are we going to achieve that goal? So, we are going to follow the advice first written on the napkin. A goal without a plan is just a wish. Okay, this means we're going to use the plan on the slide, right over here, to achieve the goals that we talked about. First, we need a refresher on the underlying causes of obesity. Then we'll learn about our default behaviors in our lives. Next, we'll learn about what behaviors are healthy and unhealthy. We can then apply them to learn to discovering what makes the change, or how to make the changes, to healthier defaults. Finally, we will learn how to make those changes a permanent part of our family's lives. And that's where everything is going to stick and lead you to a healthier lifestyle. Now, we based this seminar on the trans-theoretical model of change because default behaviors are part of all of our lives. This provides a change-focused structure for seminars. There are 5 main stages of change, which are pre-contemplation, contemplation, determination, action, and maintenance. As you notice yourself as you work through the stage of change, you may notice that you're moving backwards and forwards through these stages of change. Don't worry, this model of change is designed to handle a realistic lifestyle. The key is to keep it progressing forward no matter how many setbacks you experience. Then ultimately we'll use those levels to personalize the 3 learning goals for everyone in this seminar, and we're going to do that in this seminar. So how is a TTM going to help exactly? It'll be used to help you identify your individual readiness for change. This will help you identify your current food habits and learn where you are at when it comes to the readiness to change to new ones. Additionally, by learning this way, it may help you work with your children to accomplish the same thing. Okay, so we're going to base everything, all the solutions that we're going to provide are going to be based on what you are ready for. So you're not going to get into the point where you feel overwhelmingly uncomfortable. So now we know about the TTM and how it's going to help. We're going to do as the science says and move towards making those healthier choices. To do that, we need to remember what brought us here today, the underlying factor, which is obesity. So obesity is, and I love this definition, the excessive accumulation of fat. Okay? So obesity is an epidemic. If you look at the picture, you can see that over 604 million adults and 108 million children are currently obese in the world. Reducing these numbers is essential to protecting the futures of people that are threatened by it. The reason it's essential is because obesity is really a dangerous disease. Okay, obesity is related to just about every facet of life, like this picture shows. It's related to multiple health problems such as hypertension and death. You can see on the slide here. As you can see on the picture, mobility can be reduced. It's related to some cancer, and it has serious economic consequences, meaning it could affect work performance. It could potentially cost someone their jobs. As well as an employer, it could cost you an employee. First of all, obesity does not discriminate. Anyone can be affected, and the damages it causes can affect generations. But the good news is obesity can be changed. This is where you, the parents and adults, come in. The picture on this slide is showing a kid controlling the parents when it comes to food. Okay? Now, some days this is not always a bad thing. I mean, sometimes when they're throwing a fit and you can't reason with them, it's absolutely fine to give them what they want temporarily. But that shouldn't become a norm. One of the goals for today is to give you the final say and the power to control what gets approved for the food in the household. It shouldn't be a dictatorship relationship, rather one that shows you how the family can work together towards healthier defaults by setting goals and giving children some control with the final decision made by the parents. Ultimately, the parents and children should always work together to achieve these healthier defaults. Which brings us to you, the adults. You guys are the forgotten barrier to obesity. Now, we've shown you the need for worldwide change. We're going to look at Idaho really quick. Over 25% of adults are obese, and some are below the poverty rate, making nutritional change difficult. However, you can also see that this is the age group that has the best chance of shaping developing children. Right now, they're adults, allowing the main nutritional decisions to be made by people who are still developing mentally and emotionally. By doing this, we shortcut the potential for the developed mind to pave the way to sound nutritional decisions. By creating lasting healthy changes for yourselves, you will be able to take those skills and teach them to your children. The picture on this slide shows a choice being offered. This is an example of an opportunity for a parent to nudge a child into a healthier default choice by offering a non-food item if the child chooses the apple over the traditional default cookie. This is what I mean by putting the parents back in control and creating the barrier to future obesity. Now we can do that by helping you understand what your defaults are. So the question is, what is a default? A default is your go-to. At this point, you may want to start thinking about the things you eat and the activities you do at least 3 times per week. These defaults can make up a majority of a person's life. They can be foods that always get served with a meal. For example, the picture on the slide shows a burger that has fries and drinks that offered as the pre-selected options. Now, those fries and drinks are the defaults because while there was likely other options, the person who ordered this could have chosen other options than the pre-selected ones. So in other words, they gave you a combo despite having, an automatic combo, despite having other options on their menu. And most people just go with whatever is immediately offered, and that's just kind of what they live with, even though they could have had other things that they may have wanted more. Defaults can be meals that get served on specific days of the week. They can be a location for specific meals, say if they were a restaurant. They can be a TV binge time or an after-school snack setting. It can be a weekly family meal or breakfast. And as the slide says, a default can be any go-to during the normal day. So what are some examples of food defaults? On this slide, we have another visual of a typical default, the classic fish and chip combo. This fish combo came with a side of coleslaw, which could also be a part of another default meal. So you can see on here the examples: fries come in the meal with your burger, soda in the meal, examples for home, mashed potatoes and steaks served with steak, and dinner after desserts. Okay, this is especially down here should tell you that the food you make at home can also have defaults or the go-to option. Have you heard someone say that they're a steak and potatoes kind of person? Well, potatoes are a default or a go-to side for steak and many other items. Another default could be rice served with either Hispanic or Asian foods. Chips are often served with sandwiches, and cornbread is usually paired with barbecue as well as chili. And dessert is typically paired after dinner. It's another common default food. Okay, so examples of default locations. Default locations are where we go on a regular basis. If you think about it, I bet you know someone, possibly yourself, that seriously believes they can't make it through a day without stopping at a gas station. Other default places are snacks, drink drive-thrus, restaurants, vending machines at work or school, and secret stashes at home, especially those secret stashes. You should probably be giving those up at this point, or at least think about it. Examples of default activities. You're going to really like this one, parents who have ever sat there and yelled at their kids for spending way too much time on their phone, or at least discussed it, not yelled. So take a second and ask yourself, what is something I do every day? Those default activities can include playing on your phones, like the picture shows, like we just talked about, reading, going to the movies, watching TV, playing video games, Facebook and Instagram, and a lot of people I know do that. I'm more of a Pinterest kind of person. At the very least, most of us do at least one of these things on a weekly basis. Another common default activity is binge watching the last season of a series before the next season starts. And up until recently, I was not guilty of that, but sometimes that show, you just gotta remember what it was. So, examples of default situations. As we move into broader concepts of default or go-tos, we really need to take a look at our lives to determine what we do on a regular basis. A good idea is to begin with weekly habits and get down to those daily habits, because the weekly habits may be less ingrained in our lives. Some of those weekly habits are Sunday barbecues, going to movies, dinner with friends or family, and work meetings. The potential danger in these situations are that these defaults can add up to a lifetime and generations of defaults without us realizing it. Like over here on the picture, it shows a picture of coffee with friends, something people do on a regular basis. Now, we can chip those away if we work hard enough at them, but we have to recognize them first, which is why we're showing you these things. Now that we know what examples of all the situations, now we have a list of the examples of all of our potential defaults. We're going to, on the next lecture, take a look at the three-step process changing defaults, and we're going to move on from there. So hang on just a sec, take a quick break, and I'll upload the next video here in just a second. Hang on.